G'day guys, how are you all? Hope we're all doing well. Pick the locks and you know it. Don't forget to even hashtag it. Keep it bloody legal. So, where am I? No. So, as I said earlier on in my video on the lishi key cutter. Let me turn this light on because I've got all my lights on. In review, I said you can actually cut to code or duplicate a key using it. It's not the best method for duplicating a key, but if need be, out in the field, it can be done. And the same method of duplicating a key also goes to cutting to code. So if you're out on the job, or you're out in the field, or you're red teaming or something like that, and you need to cut, or you want to cut key to code, there's a couple of ways you can actually go about working out the code for the key. And the same method that we use where we put two keys together, sandwich them together, and then cut them is the same for duplicating. So I'm not going to bore you with duplicating. I want to show you a rough, nasty bit. It will work out in the field, code cutting. If you're a red team or anything like that. So there's a couple of ways you can work out the bitting and the depths. You can do it via a photo. So we're going to use this Lockwood padlock here. So you can either take, a photo of the key, someone's carrying the keys, they've got the keys in on the side. You snap a photo of the key, you can use the overlay of the lines on, Word and stuff like that. You've seen everyone do it. Even Olaf does a video on it. And also, you're not so civil engineer, so you can put lines across knowing which key it is, and then they will tell you the depths. The other way, if you're quick, you got a pair of calipers or a key gauge like this, and you're on the job, and you can borrow someone's key. You can quickly, decode 4. Go along 9, 6, 4, 1. You can quickly decode a key doing it that way. Or if you're like me as well, a lot of keys have a code on them. Not all of them. Some of them do. And some of them actually on locks. Tubular locks are a great one, and some wafer locks actually have a code written on them. And that code tells you the bitting. So, for example, the code 23619 on here, if you have access to an app, I'm using Instacode Live. So you can actually look up the key, you type in the code into here. This costs you $10 a month. I got the basic package going because I'm not going to be doing a heap of different keys and stuff like that. So the basic one works for me. $10 a month, anyone can afford it. I've set it so that I can pay when I choose to. So if I want to pay for another month after this month's up, I can. If I don't want to, I don't have to. But $10 a month. Type in what the code is, the brand of lock, and it will actually spit out the code for you. So I actually got it here, which is 49641, which is the same as what we just decoded. So there's heaps of different ways. You can use an app like that. So if you type in Lockwood manufacturer and the code, you can do it for any of them. For example, this app is absolutely fantastic. Anyone can get it. Once you fill out you download the app, then you got to go to the web page and fill out the information on there to be able to get it. Continue with the Lockwood. If we go the CFA key, the 003 key that we have here, 003 Lockwood, you go search, and you can actually, this app's great, it will actually show you the photos of it and everything. Cam locks and filing cabinets, 232 series padlock. Now, they're all pretty much the same bitting, it should be. Come on. So it tells you 1, 2, 4, 3, 2. There's your bitting. You can even go across to here and show key cuts. So it's actually got the cuts of the key. You can actually see them on there. You can go the key blanks that it uses. So it tells you which ones. There's a photo of the key blank there. So this is an absolutely fantastic app. For everything like that. So anyway, we know our bitting, what it's going to be. So that's, Instacode. 1 second. So anyway, lots of different ways of actually deciphering and getting the code for the bitting or working out the bitting for your lock. So as I said, anyway, you're going to need a set of space and depth keys. This is like poor means code cutting. This does not replace a code cutting machine, and it does not replace an actual key cutting machine. But as I said, if you're out in the field or you want to make up some couple of challenge locks or something like that, being a Locksporter, red team or whatever it may be, any application that you can think of to incorporate this, it will work. But as I said, you also need a set of space and depth keys for the actual lock and the type of keys that you're using. These are actually LW5s, but the depth and the spacing is exactly the same for LW5 as it is for LW4 for the Lockwood. So that's what I'm actually going to use. As I said, you're going to need a set of vice grips and the lishi key cutter. So anyway, to cut to code is going to be the same method as what we use when we duplicate a key, except for we're going to do one key at a time. Whereas duplicating, we use different keys for the code cutting. Duplicating, you're going to use one key and just copy the actual key in the same method as what we're going to do here, if that actually makes sense. So we know our first cut is number 4, and we know that our fourth cut is number 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts. So the first one and the fourth one are number 4 cuts. So I'm going to go through our space and depth keys. I'm going to take out number 4. I'm going to disconnect them. And now we're going to load. I want to make sure that we're on the flat side, as I said, when it comes to duplicating. So they're going to be facing the same way. And we're going to perfectly align them. Now, I use the edge of my bench or something just to align the shoulders. So I want the shoulders perfectly aligned and the base of the key perfectly aligned as well. I'm just going to loosen these off just enough so I can actually I'll make sure they're perfectly squared up. Like that. So now we're perfectly flush on the bottom. We're aligned with the top shoulders because there's only, there's no bottom shoulder on that. Top shoulders are perfectly aligned, and we have our number 4 cuts. So we know that 1 and 4 are going to be our number 4 cuts. So as I said, with the lishi key cutter, same method for duplicating. Go all the way in, right up to the edge of your actual key, the actual one that you're trying to copy. So you go right in. So you might have to take 2 nibbles out and just wiggle it slightly just to get it into the right position, to get the right angles and everything, to where the original key comes in handy. So let's quickly make sure that it's still perfectly aligned, and we're just going to carefully nibble. As I said, I like to take a little bit off at a time. Just to make sure I'm not going to blunt my cutter. So that's our first cut. And we're going to do the 4th cut. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll do the same thing with him. Like that. So we actually have our 4 cut. Now, we've got them 2. Next one down. So let's say we've got the code. I forgot what bloody code was for a second now. So I'll just quickly was that? That was a 5 cut, wasn't it? No, 6. That was it. So we know we've got our 2 4s. We need a 9, a 6, and a 1. So we'll go for the 9 cut next. So again, I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to put my, just so I don't lose positions, put this back on. Rest of my space and depth keys in the right order. I need, actually let's do our 6 because it's next on the keys. Then I'm going to perfectly align them. Just going to quickly use the edge of my bench just to align the shoulders. Again, just going to double check, make sure we are all aligned, like that. So we know we've got our first cut, which is a 4, we've got our 4th cut, which is a 4, second one's a 9, but we know the third one is a 6. So we're all perfectly aligned, we're all straight. Yep. So now we can take our 6th cut. So again, I'm just going to take little bits off at a time. I'm not going to be taking big chunks out because I don't want to go blunting or damaging my lishi key cutter. Like that. Make sure I'm still aligned. Alright, so I'm I have to pause the camera for a second. Very carefully taking out, making sure I'm really pushed up as close as I can get to that key, and keep it all nice and flush and level. Making sure that I'm cutting at the right angles, because the slightest bit out can mean the difference between a working key and a non-working key. So that's our 6. Now we're going to do our 9 and our 1. So put the 6 back in. And we go all the way up to our 9 depth key, which is the deepest cut. Again, we're going to perfectly align everything. So I'm going to use my bench just to quickly align the shoulders. Stay in line shoulders and make sure the keys are aligned, nice and flush. The slightest bit off is the difference between a working key and a non-working key, especially when you go for the higher security locks that have much better tolerances. And try to make sure, no, I'm off a little bit, can tell. So as I said, I'm trying to make sure that I'm perfectly aligned, both the shoulders matching identically. And the bottoms of the keys. Because if it's off like that, it's definitely not going to cut the right depth. Shoulders and lines, let's line up the base. That's right. Now I'm going to do my 9 cut, which is in the second position. So again, as you can see, I'm just taking off dear little bits. That looks about right to me. And if it does need just a little bit of touch up, you can actually do it. So that actually looks like a pretty good 9 cut to me. So, as long as our spacing is right, and as long as our depths are right, this key's going to work. And that's why I said you got to be very precise. And as I said, it's not going to, it's not going to be better than a machine or a code cutter, but can cut to code using space and depth keys on a machine. This is another way of doing it out in the field. Of course, we need our 1 cut, our last cut. Because not everyone can carry around, it's not like you can carry around a code cutting machine in your backpack or in your pocket. That's, yeah. Alright, so again, we're going to align flat sides. And make sure that our shoulders perfectly aligned. Our bases are flat. Our last cut is a 1 cut. And I did them around the wrong way. That way. So I'm just going to use something to line up the shoulders. That's better. Cuts look like they're all lined up. Bases are all lined up. And the shoulders are off. That's better. Alright, now last cut should be a 1 cut. There we go. Making sure that we are still keeping it flat and aligned. looks about right. Now, make sure, just put a little bit of a dip, just an edge on there. So I'm not going to go any deeper, I'm just going to do a little bit of a slant. Like that. Now, the moment of truth. Might need a little bit of adjusting. Yep, so I can feel it's just catching. Which, that little burrs in it can actually stop this from working. Alright, so we're just going to quickly double check, make sure that our depths are right and our spacing. So the slightest bit. Double check our cuts because it was slightest bit off. And so I cut that one just a little bit short. Yeah, it's going to be a 4 cut, it's coming up as a 3, so I'm just this fraction off. All it takes, as I said, is a that's better. That's a 4 cut now. Nine cut. So my 4 cuts were just off. 4 cut, 4 cut. One cut a little bit. As I said, you've got to be absolutely spot on. As I said, this isn't the absolute best way of actually cutting to code, but out in the field, if you need to quickly, nearly there, you need to just quickly cut, you can. So 4, 9, as that even your slants, the slopes have to be spot on as well, so that your actual key will ride up and down, the pens will ride up and down properly. There we go. So as you can see, just a little bit of fine tuning and she works. So as I said, you know, you just got to be spot on, even the slightest bit out on your slants, on the slopes, I should say, not the slants. You know, and she's not going to work 100% perfectly. So it's not the best method, but out in the field, I mean, if you have to quickly cut a key, you know, to code, you can decode. So it's just catching a little bit. I can feel it works. She's just catching a little bit. It's catching at the back there. So as I said, you just got to make sure that your cuts, and as well, it's kind of helpful and handy. I went a little bit too deep on that one cut. That's why, just a smidgen too deep on that one cut. Oh, she's catching at the back. But she works. So if you have to cut the code in the field, as I said, it's not absolute best method. She does work. So a working key, you know, she's better than nothing. As I said, definitely not the best method, but in a pinch, she will work. Just try not to take off too much of your key, like I did there on that last cut. That one cut, I took just a smidgen too much off and knocked it down to a 2 cut. Right in the valley there, which is a bit of a pain. Very bad pain in the bottom butt, and the butt, I should say, pain in the butt. But she works. So anyway, as I said, not the best method at all for cutting to code, but out in the field, in a pinch, she will actually work. As long as you have a couple of pieces of equipment, you know, space and depth keys, a blank key, all for the right lock, lock you're going after. You know, a key gauge and a lishi key cutter. Everything you kind of need to cut to code in a way to get a working key for a padlock. Oh, wrong way. There we go. So, anyway, so I've got today. A little bit of fun, little project, and as you can see, this is not the best version of cutting the code, and you can see I just took a smidgen too much off that last pin. But trying to make sure that all your slopes are the right angles, your keys cut to depths are cut to the right one, because it's a very, very fine tip on here, and it's finer than what your pins are, so your pins are going to sit a little bit higher. So I said you want to take your time and just space it out a little bit. But to cut key to code, decoding your lock either using the app, a key gauge like we did, and a set of space and depth keys, making sure they all line up perfectly. You know, as long as your shoulders are aligned and the bottom of your key is perfectly flat, you should be able to cut a copy quite accurately. As I said, push right down, make sure the nose of your key cutter is sitting right up against your key that you're trying to, or your depth that you're trying to cut to, and she will actually cut quite well. So now I've got little bits of metal to clean up. As you can see, I've only taken off dear little bits at a time, just so I don't blunt the cutter. So anyway, as always follow the codes, keep Locksport legal. You know it, don't do anything bloody stupid. Don't forget to come join us on Discord, the Extraordinary League of Pickers, links in the description down below. Don't forget, if you're looking for great equipment at very affordable and competitive prices, don't forget to check out locksmiths.com. Great Australian company in the Asian area, that's where I get most of my lockpicking equipment from. Don't forget, if you want to get your hands on some Doubt merch, you can get that at Teespring. There's a link in the description down below as well. Don't forget, if you want to get in contact with me, you can contact me through any of the social medias. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Or send me an email, darkhutslockpicking@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. If you like what you see, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Really do bloody appreciate it. And until next time, cheers, guys.